I suppose.
You want them to be safe, you want them to be entertained, you want them to grow up a little bit in the sense of taking care of themselves. So there are a lot of target to hit, and in the meantime, also many challenges to overcome.
Right. So in South Africa, you mentioned earlier there are 4 semesters, so the holidays are broken down into smaller pieces.
Yeah, around 30 days.
30 days. And then
Still
what are
on
parents'
time.
choices when it comes to, taking care of their kids while they are still at work?
I mean, there's different things to consider. So obviously in South Africa, safety is a big issue. You can't let kids kind of wander the streets alone or, kind of do anything completely autonomously, whether it's during the day or in the evening. So finding care for kids is a big thing, especially if you don't have leave as an adult. But that being said, we also have, ample camps. We also have, the sort of terrain and, scenery where outdoorsy activities on a daily basis is entirely possible and highly entertaining. We also have a lot of domestic travel venues that kids can be sent to enjoy time away from their specific city or region or whatever it may be. Generally during those times, that is kind of what's available in terms of remaining in South Africa. Generally it's outdoorsy activities, with heavily supervised. But then also, there can be summer camps organized, or the schools can actually arrange camps for kids outside of the school, even during the school holidays. Or, parents can kind of arrange domestic travel that involves them as well if they have the leave. And then, of course, some families are also in the privileged position to be able to take their kids overseas, which we will probably get into because I highly disagree with that.
In the meantime, we see that in the United States, many parents enroll their children in affordable summer camps organized by community centers, churches, or local government programs.
Very similar to South Africa.
Yes, and in Finland, we see the country offers public services, including summer programs organized by schools and also the local government. And also we see in France, for example, the government and local places and local governments also provide a range of holiday programs for children, including sports, arts, and cultural activities. Actually, here in China, we have those things as well. One interesting distinction I see here is that many of these activities we mentioned in these countries actually would hire volunteers to supervise the kids, and most volunteers are actually college students. So you have the college students spending their summer holidays taking care of primary school, middle school, high school kids. So that's a fun approach, I guess. And also we see here in China, we also have libraries and also what we call 少年宫, youth palace, or actually these are activities. Well, these are some fun names we see, but actually they provide very activities or extracurricular classes for kids to enroll. This thing here is that they do not actually provide the kind of activities that would allow you to send your kids to in the morning when you go to work and pick them up in the evening when you get off. Like around 2 hours, 3 hours, which can be a little bit difficult if your kids really need around-the-clock kind of care or supervise.
So I guess age really matters here. If it's relatively younger student, let's say in primary school, who is yet to know his or her way around the city, to the youth palace or library, then perhaps the parents will have to invest more time and thinking into making a perfect plan for them. Whereas perhaps for more mature, older students in junior middle school, high schools, then perhaps they can find their own way to places where they can keep themselves entertained and educated in some cases. And so, what do parents generally expect for their children during the holiday? I mean, the first thing I can think of is to make sure that the children can get their homework done. I mean, even though it is a vacation, it's a holiday. I mean, students need to go home bringing their own homework.
Bringing their own homework?
Yes, they're supposed to finish.
That would not happen in South Africa. It would never be a case where a kid would be like, I'm going to provide myself with my own homework today. You would have to really crack the whip in terms of getting kids to arrange their own work if it's not during the school term.
Oh, sometimes it's arranged by the parents.
Yeah.
You have the kind of homework from school, and then you have the kind of homework from the parents.
Right.
But in general, I feel like parents are looking for a safe, enjoyable holiday for parents. they look for activities that can provide both fun and learning opportunities, and helping kids develop new skills, interests, and social connections. And these have been the goals for parents for at least tens of years. For our parents, it was like that. It was just in our generation, in my generation, we didn't have that many choices.
No, I was just sent to my grandpa's home.
Oh, that
oversee
too.
my homework assignments and other
That too.
activities.
Actually, I enjoyed the time in my grandparents' home quite a lot. To the extended relatives, I think it's a different experience, but I feel like nowadays, in order for the kids, well, I think kids are still going to the extended family or relative homes. It's just there are more activities.
From what I've seen, it's still definitely very common. I mean, just even in Shijingshan, for example, on my way to work in the summer in the mornings, I more often than not see very young kids, I would say between the ages of 3 and 8, being cared for by seemingly their grandparents. So it is definitely still an ongoing trend.
Yeah, in my generation, I think that was quite easy, comparatively speaking, because when I gradually grow up and become adults, and I noticed this trend of massive migration of people living originally in rural areas, looking for jobs in urban areas, and more often than not, their families are separated, and more often than not, their kids have to stay with their parents in their hometown to begin with. So I don't know if it's possible. Perhaps the parents could arrange for the kids to come to the city where they work and be united with them, even just for 2 months or 1 month.
Yeah, I think some common activities happen for kids during summer breaks as well as winter breaks include go to your parents if you don't live with your parents already, and go to your grandparents, again, if you don't live with them already, and signing up for some interesting extracurriculum courses, and the final one would be travel with your family.
And finally, money can be an issue here.
Oh, yes.
Because if you have the money in your pocket, you can afford it. There are plenty of courses that you can sign your kids up for in the market. Extracurricular training, maybe you want your kids to brush up on their math, English language, or Chinese language, or any other.
Super fun summer holiday. Brushing up on my maths and English skills.
I only did it once.
That happens a lot.
I know, poor kids. I feel sorry for them.
When I was a kid, I remember I can sign up for a entire semesters of English classes with around 300 yuan. That is less than $50. That is quite cheap, but I'm talking about over 20 years ago. Nowadays, we see that
a month.
No, a whole semester, around 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so really not bad. But the thing is, now we get to see there are more and more choices when it comes to extracurriculum classes. You can go polish your English or math skills if you want. By saying you, I actually am talking about your parents. And at the meantime, you can also learn a special kind of sport that you pick, be it basketball, as common as basketball and badminton, or as special as horseback riding.
Or equestrian.
Yes, there are a lot of different choices nowadays.
From the youth palace, I suppose?
Not really sure. And also karate, if you enjoy that. And there is also an art-related genre, a huge one, ready for you to explore. Piano would be the easiest choice. Guitar, violin, and I think for some kids, they would also go for traditional Chinese instruments.
And singing lessons, I guess, too.
Singing lessons as well, of course. So with all these different choices, it's kind of hard for parents to pick the one that is mostly suitable for their kids, while it's affordable, and also not taking up too much time of their kids.
But I think that's dialogue between parents and kids becomes very important, because yes, as a parent, you still need to have the final say about what you think is best for your kid in terms of how they spend their time during those lengthy vacation periods. But I think it's also a good opportunity to, speak to your child and say, look, what are your interests, what are your hobbies, what are you potentially interested in taking up, what do you see yourself doing in the future? And I think that dialogue is a lot more important than, sitting down with a kid and saying, discussing travel plans.
You need to do your homework.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a good opportunity to kind of make decisions for your kids, but informed decisions based on the conversations that you have with them.
Oh, definitely. The word informed is a key word here, because we would assume as parents, we know more about the world than the kids, but not necessarily. We don't. And when they talk to their classmates, their friends, they started to basically cultivate this new hobby or new habit about
gaming.
Not only gaming, but also, for example, artificial intelligence. Do you know there's AI-related tours, let's say study tours, as well as extracurriculum classes that you can sign up for? There's coding-related ones. I didn't even know there are such options. Yet, for some kids, the reason that they wanted to go to these classes is that their friends go there, and they want to spend time with their friends, and after trying out one or two little tasks that their friend brought, they realize they like this subject as well. So, yeah, talk to your kids. There are so many options out there in the market.
Some of the options are quite old. I mean, I remember being sent to a course or a training session where I was exposed to computer technology and I learned how to type, and that was it. But apparently things have changed and they've evolved over time, and apparently AI is one of the popular items and options that parents are eyeing for, and they're willing to pay big money for that.
Oh, yes, but you should at least, well, I think for parents, they should, again, if the idea is broad to buy their kids, or if you think making sure that your kid speaks artificial intelligence is important, make sure you also do some research. There are cases that for certain AI-related study tours or short-term extracurriculum courses, there are certain problems. For example, some of the organizer of such classes would say that, I would give your kids an immersive experience related to artificial intelligence.
How immersive? Can I train my own AI?
Yeah, that's the idea. That's what you are going to assume if you hear words like this. Also, they would ask you, they would tell you that they're sending your kids to major big name companies to see how AI is working in these places in real life scenarios. But many of these promises are only, let's say, yeah, they're not delivered, for sure, in certain cases. So you want to do the research, making sure that your kids are sent to legitimate courses.
So the parents are responsible to make sure that whatever courses pertaining to AI that they're sending their kids to are legitimate and reliable and offer what is being promised. Of course, the parents have the responsibility, but then we're talking about, parents and people potentially paying big money for a kind of service that they can purchase in the market. Do you think it's also the responsibility of market regulators out there as well? I mean, that certainly presents a challenge for the regulators as well, for them to know what kind of services are being offered and whether they are, straightforward and, delivering what they promised.
Yeah, I guess to a certain extent it is up to them to be able to, ensure that the services that are being offered are, relatively affordable to the general masses.
Definitely, and the reason I know this specific example about this not up to standard AI extracurriculum classes is that regulators are in place and they have done their speculation.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they've done the research and they figured out these not up to standard ones, and they reported, and that's why I know them. So definitely, we do need more regulations and supervisors in place in the market.
But I also think these are good areas where parents can justify spending great sums of money on their children. I think it makes, to me, not being a parent, but just putting myself in a parent's shoes, I think it makes a lot more sense to spend greater sums of money on activities that would develop my child further and allow them to potentially develop skills that could see them have a greater chance of becoming successful in the future, rather than spending huge amounts of money on elaborate summer camps where they just spend time outdoors having fun, or going to France, whatever it may be, which are like valid, exciting opportunities, but don't necessarily give your child an edge going forward. Where spending, fairly large sums of money on like AI courses or, music lessons or sports lessons or skills, to me, spending money on a child's development that can yield actual results makes more sense.
What if I tell you I can combine both? in a summer camp or a study trip? Because it has been quite popular here in China.
So like a more inclusive experience.
Exactly.
Offer a lot of
certain kind of study tour. For example, if the kid is super interested in plants or knowledge about different plants, they take you to yes, take you to a natural park or different types of theme parks, making sure that you are also accompanied with a certain expert with knowledge about these areas and allowing you to conduct actual on-hand activities with certain plants, making samples, learning new knowledge while having fun in these different places. These types of study trips have been quite popular this summer.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons is because perhaps due to COVID, people have not been able to travel for themselves, especially parents, and when they feel like they've been missing out, and they don't want the same thing to happen to their kids. And so now that COVID is gone and the travel restrictions is gone as well, parents might think that it's worthwhile to have my kids go travel the world and experience what I have been missing, and I don't know, whatever he or she might get from that experience.
I wouldn't want that for my kids. I would be like leaving my kids at home and then going out and experiencing what I was missing and say, sorry kids, this is my time.
You're not a parent yet. That's why you're saying all
no,
this.
You
for sure.
also have a 2-month holiday.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, on that, we discussed it a little bit before the show, and I think that overseas travel is a very impactful, worthwhile experience for all individuals, but I personally feel that it's a lot more impactful on adults than it is on children. So, for example, I traveled extensively around the globe as a child, but don't really recall much from it, or I don't feel like I gained much from it, and I would definitely rather have those funds available to me now as an adult, as opposed to having had that much experience as a child.
I don't know, but you were in China. You found a job in China. Maybe a different person in South Africa who hasn't had that experience might think twice about it.
Yeah, but as an adult, I don't think that any childhood experiences led to this path. And look, I think that for me personally, I think it makes a lot more sense to spend that money on developing a child's skills or passions or hobbies rather than just taking them on lavish holidays, because I personally feel that those sorts of lavish holidays are a lot more impactful on adults than children. But that being said, if you have the funds available to, go overseas with your kids when they're young and also potentially help them with overseas travels when they get a little bit older, then, that's great. Then you're obviously in a very good financial situation.
Well, the thing with businesses and services and also the potential clients is that oftentimes when parents or when a customer can afford something, that means they can buy it more than once.
Yeah.
So parents who can afford to send their kids to traveling overseas probably can afford it when they're older.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter, just a part of the plan that they've made for their kids. I mean, who's to say they haven't planned anything else for their kids?
Nothing was planned for me. Yeah, I went on all of these crazy trips as a kid, but then as an adult, it was kind of, my parents were kind of like, well, it's your turn now. If you want to go overseas, you've got to sort that out by yourself.
You're an adult.
Yeah,
that's
what I'm saying. But there are a lot of rich families that they take their kids all around the world, and then when those kids become adults, they take that money that they would have spent on family vacations and just give it to the kids and say, enjoy partying in France for 2 weeks.
Oh, that sounds like a really good family. I'd like to form into.
This is jealousy month. Like, even, I went on a vacation like 2 weeks ago and came and had a great time and came back, and then as soon as I opened social media, I saw this person's going to France, this person's going to Italy. So I think summer's definitely a time to enjoy yourself, but it's also a time to maybe stay away from social media if you don't want to have FOMO.
And coming back from that ideal yet too good to be true kind of scenario, what we're saying here is every kid is different, every family is different. Maybe for some, going to an overseas or enjoying an overseas trip is vital in their growing period or growing experience, but for others, maybe taking on certain extracurriculum courses would help them find a hobby that enjoy. So I think there's no right answer for everyone.
Different strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
It really depends on. It also depends on where you grow up. For instance, in China, you have the language barrier. If you travel overseas, you get the kids more likely than not don't know the local language, and they don't necessarily know what's going on. The child in Europe, the Schengen area and the policy.
It's so easy too because you can literally visit dozens of European countries by train, like the way that we visit cities in China, for example.
Which is why,
incredible.
I think it's really important that parents take into account where they are and what kind of experience they would like their kids to have while they're making the plans. And last thing about this year's travel is that people are complaining that expensive, and that is naturally so because the labor cost is going up. And how do we strike the balance? I mean, certainly we want those in the business to make the money and live the life that they can with dignity live. But on the other hand, we also want services to be affordable. I mean, what do you think parents can do going forward?
I think we do not have to meddle because, again, different parents, different families have different situations and can make different decisions. And we've already seen that the explosion of different choices and possibilities in the market, that is actually a good thing because you can choose the relative expensive ones. And if you are from a really good, you can also choose to cut down or cut away one or two extracurricular classes for your kids. And either way, you can assure your kids with a happy and safe and enjoyable summer vacation.
It's tricky because I think everything is becoming a lot more expensive. So I think that all activities going forward involving parents and kids just requires maybe more planning than was done in the past and more budgeting. So I think a lot of things are possible through extensive planning and budgeting depending on your financial situation.
There you go, more jobs demanded from the parents. You're listening to Roundtable. Also on today's show, as humans enjoy a getaway from work and routine during the summer break, the animals may have a hard time as temperatures rise to unreasonable heights. Pets may have the advantage of staying in ventilated rooms. What about wild animals and those in a zoo? Stay with us to find out more.
As you sip your morning coffee, we transport you from the sea of tulips in the countryside to the exciting moments of table tennis world.
From right now to win the men's team title at table tennis.
As you commute in the hustle and bustle of rush hour traffic, we guide you to navigate from intricacies of global markets,
International Monetary Fund,
tech revolutions, the conflict between Israel and Palestine,
can cross the border.
to the El Nino-triggered fires.
Over 90 active fires have been reported.
As you gather around a community event, we provide you the vibrant sounds on different topics, such as how AI empowers education,
that provide teachers and
what does Loom or the Chinese dragon mean to the Chinese people,
Symbolizing great power, good luck, and strength.
why live stream shopping is gaining popularity in Brazil.
entrepreneurs are seeking to establish a strong presence in the Brazilian market.
CGTN Radio, your constant companion to connect people through sharing insights, interviews, and opinions that help us to see the world. Together with CGTN Radio, hear the difference. You can download the CGTN app to get more valued information.
Our sword of the 17th of the Delve into a world of words with Books and Beyond, a podcast made especially for audiobook lovers.
Into the world, the youngest and
You lifted one. Why have you taken? Immerse yourself in gripping stories and timeless classics from the comfort of your own personal space. Sunzi underlined 3 points on the context to
There was no better wine, and not to mention
Whether you're a bookworm or a casual listener, our carefully curated selection of audiobooks will transport you to new worlds and stir your imagination. And beyond, and start your audiobook adventure now on radio.cgtn.com or your favorite podcast app.
Hey there, global listeners. Get ready for the hottest discussions on the airwaves. Roundtable, your passport to the heart of China's buzzing society. Pressing issues, lifestyle trends, and impactful policies, we're tackling them head on with wit, wisdom, and a whole lot of fun. Discover the real China through the eyes and voices of its people. Gain a unique global perspective on topics that resonate universally. Tune in and turn up the excitement dial on Roundtable as we bridge gaps and break barriers one discussion at a time. Don't just listen, be transformed.
Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
Growing up in southern China, I used to envy aquatic animals. In summertime, when we are loath to venture out in the sun and looking everywhere for some shade when we are actually out, we think it's nice to be a happy field. Not every animal is blessed with such good fortune along the path of evolution. What about those who have to stay out in the open all the time, in the desert? Hello, I'm Lai Ming, and this is Roundtable. Today, with New Hongling and Brendan Yates, we find out whether our concerns for the animals' fate is warranted and see if we need to do something about it. So, tigers, lions, and bears. There's a zoo in downtown Beijing, in Xizimen, and there's a wildlife zoo as well. And if you have kids, more likely than not, you may have been there. Enjoying the seeing and enjoying interactions with the animals. And I remember there was one summer when I went there and I was looking forward to seeing the pandas, but they were not around because it was too hot.
Yeah, it happens because there are at least two factors here. First is that the reason we start school is to make sure that kids would be able to see the animals that are not necessarily quite often or common to see in the area that they live. So, for example, pandas we know are more common to see in Sichuan province here in China, yet in Beijing you get to see one or two if you go to the zoo.
And in San Diego.
Yes, it's not necessarily their common habitat or their original habitat, yet you get to see them because that's the purpose of zoo. We do research, we demonstrate these animals to kids so that they know, wow, the world is a very interesting place with multiple creatures. And the second thing, well, with that in consideration, you know that not all animals in the zoo are quite accustomed to the local situation, the weather condition, or the climate conditions in the zoo.
Like there are penguins in Xizimen, the zoo in Beijing.
Yes, and in usual days, you customize the environment for them, but when it's 30 degrees Celsius, 40 degrees Celsius in a hot summer day, yes, we do need to make special arrangement for these animals. And the second factor is definitely that, yes, when it comes to taking care of themselves in relatively extreme summertime or winter days, yes, they have their own ways. You see a dog left their tongues out. That is their way of cooling down. Yet, we see climate change as well. The hot air, let's say the hot climate or hot days are more and more often for human beings as well. More extreme, yeah. So with that, we're not sure whether or not the animals can deal with the situation quite that fast without the aid of help like human beings. So taking care of animals and protecting animal welfare is definitely a thing.
Brandon, did you go to zoos while you were in South Africa? I mean,
South Africa is a giant zoo, so I mean, there's just nature and wildlife everywhere. We don't necessarily have zoos in the traditional sense. We have a lot of sanctuaries and like aquatic arenas and that sort of thing. So a lot of the places where you can see animals in a relatively controlled environment, they're more designed to protect and conserve the animals as opposed to entertain viewers. So sometimes going to some of these venues is, seeing the animals is determined on their mood or, where they are that day or whatever, if they're being taken care of or not. So there's a lot of areas around South Africa to either see animals in their natural habitat, but if they are in more customer-friendly areas, it's a lot more about the protection and the conservation of the animals as opposed to putting them on display for people to see. So it's a little bit more of a gamble in terms of what kind of experience you will have as a viewer going to a certain sanctuary or aquarium or whatever it may be.
Plus, the penguins probably felt more at home in South Africa.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, one of South Africa's and Cape Town's most world-renowned areas is the penguin colony in the Cape, where you can actually see thousands of penguins in their natural habitat, and you can actually go onto the beach and swim with these penguins. So that's definitely an experience I would recommend to anybody that ever visits Cape Town in South Africa.
In any episode of Roundtable, I would definitely applaud all that design because, allowing them to stay in their natural habitat is definitely a much better, let's say, living condition for these animals. Except that in these really extremely hot summer days, if they live in indoor areas, like Lemmy has already said, there is a zoo in downtown Beijing, and there is a wild animal, kind of like a wild animal zoo.
That's where conservation becomes more important than putting them on display for people to see.
But for those areas, since there's literally no indoor area for any animal, it is hard to provide them with AC or provide them with a location where they can get some popsicle. Expect that they're not popsicle, they're like bloodsicle or watermelonsicle, whatever. I mean, it's even harder to make sure that they have a relatively more friendly environment for them to at least hide away from the extreme heat.
Well, if it's a rare animal like pandas, then there are AC rooms where they can escape into, and something happens to other animals in zoos across the country.
But I think in those circumstances, particularly when animals are brought to a certain country or zoo where they are out of their natural habitat, the responsibility then falls on that country or organization to do everything they can to provide the best possible setting for that animal to feel as comfortable out of their natural habitat as possible.
Oh, definitely. Let's take an example from the Beijing Zoo. Actually, measures have been implemented to ensure animals are comfortable and protected from the heat during the summer. These measures include additional sprinklers, providing ice baths, laying cooling mats, and increasing the variety of juicy fruits and vegetables. You can see rhinos enjoying mud baths, which is a way that they use in their natural habitat to stay away from the direct and burning sun, and hippos munching on watermelons, giant pandas hugging ice blocks. It's precious. It's so fun. They would
watch out for hippos, though. They love munching on humans too.
I'm saying yes. Well, what I'm saying here is giant pandas can search for the ice blocks and go hugging them as a way to cool down, and brown bears can play under the sprinklers. These are in the kind of relatively conservative zoos that we talked about. They have these indoor areas. Yet, I think if I'm a panda, I don't really know. If I were a panda, I would love to hug some ice cubes or ice blocks in these really hot summer days.
I mean, on some days, even as a human, hugging an ice block sounds like a great idea to me. So it sounds like a lot of those animals are really well taken care of.
Yes, and some fun and interesting, I think, like hitting two birds with one stone approach is that visitors are allowed to see these kind of different cooling facilities and cooling measures. They are displaying all these different measures to the visitors, so they're, educated and entertained in the meantime. And you can see a snow flag symbol above the polar bear's door, indicating that the door remains open, so the polar bears can get indoor and outdoor. By saying outdoor, we don't really mean outdoor to the outdoor areas, more like
a created outdoor environment.
Exactly, yes. So you get to see that these are some measures taken to protect the polar bears. And in the meantime, there are also kind of facilities like mist fans that blow mist for cooling, and dust reduction can be observed by the visitors. So visitors get to see how these animals are protected.
I think it's up to the zoos and other research institutions where they keep wild animals to make sure that animals that they are within their premise are taken care of. But also, I think if it's a zoo and where there are tourists coming in, then I think we as tourists should also take into account that it's summertime and the animals are probably lethargic to begin with. Let's not annoy them further by trying to wake them up and then throwing food at them to get them more, awake, that kind of thing. So, some good behaviors, please. And while we are on the issue of animal welfare in summertime, and today seems to be the Global Tiger Day. That is a phenomenal date arranged by celebrated every year, in fact, on July 29th as a way to raise awareness about this very beautiful but endangered big cat, and this was set up firstly in the year 2010 by a number of countries who are home to such wild animals, and they initially wanted to raise the number of big cats and tigers to twice the amount back in 2010.
It also aims to promote a worldwide system for safeguarding the natural habitats of tigers and to enhance public awareness and support for tiger conservation issues. International Tiger Day has proven effective in boosting online awareness about tigers through information searches. Very interesting information, and I think I love tigers. I think I love cats.
You love looking at them.
Yeah, I love looking at them, and
not getting too close to them.
Being friends with them.
Yeah.
And spending at least one day a year to talk about the protection of tigers is
Very
something that I can do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important that we raise the awareness. Back in ancient China, I think if you read the literature, classics, then like tigers often were branded as the evil animals to be slayed, and
They eat human, yeah.
yeah, and whoever did that were considered heroes. But now apparently, with the numbers dwindling and without knowledge of their role in the ecosystem, I think our understanding of this role and also the importance of keeping them in safe hands has definitely registered in more and more people. And I'd like to do something fun about tigers on this particular day, and some trivials. Brandon,
Yeah.
it's going to be a quick
Oh, it's a quiz. All right.
Oh, fun.
Definitely not going to get any of these right, but that's
Number one, I want to test your knowledge to see whether this claim is correct or wrong.
okay.
Tigers are the largest wild cats in the world.
I'm sure lions are bigger.
Yeah, that's my assumption as well.
Yeah,
Because
I
they have the mane that makes them look bigger.
Yeah, but I think female tigers are also bigger than. Sorry, female lions I think are bigger than the average tiger. I think. So I would say false.
No, they are the largest.
Tigers are the biggest. Oh wow.
How large can they be?
Adults can weigh up to 363 kilograms and measure up to 3.3 meters.
That's amazing.
It's like a van.
And they're beautiful creatures too. Just the colors and the textures and their faces and the big teeth, and they really are stunning creatures behind a fence. So they really are great too. They're visually very appealing.
My global Tiger Day resolution would be to see tiger before the next Tiger Day. To see tiger
Have you
with my
never
own.
seen a tiger in
I've
person?
never seen tiger in my.
Have
Yeah, no.
to.
Well, I think in the zoo. No, I haven't.
Do they have any at the Beijing Zoo?
I haven't visited
Yes,
the
they
Beijing.
are.
maybe that's
And
it.
also there's the wildlife animal in the suburb.
I think I've seen a lion.
Too. All right. And number two, tigers are solitary hunters and generally search for food alone at night.
I would say yes.
There's a point that says tiger burning bright in the forests of the night.
I think they do hunt at night, but I don't know if they hunt alone.
If they have to, I think they hunt at night or during the day as well. I'm gonna say yes.
They quietly stalk their prey until they are close enough to pounce, then they kill the victim with a bite to the neck or
So the answer is yes.
yes.
Ah.
That's another example of why you don't want to get too close to them.
A tiger's roar can be heard as far as how long away?
A couple of kilometers, maybe between 5 and 10.
5 and 10.
Yeah.
That's
So-
too long.
That's like Gongzhufen from where we are now.
That's too long.
Yeah,
Way
fair enough.
too long.
Maybe
1 kilometer?
Maybe between 1 and 3.
It's 3 kilometers away.
Wow.
Like, if you're in like Wukesong subway station and
That's crazy.
in the jungles
But I think the jungle would have to be like deadly quiet as
No.
well to be able to hear that.
and the mountains and
With the echoes and everything.
Yeah.
But still, quite stunning.
That is
quite
still pretty
impressive.
amazing. I mean, 3,000 meters. It's a great distance.
So if it's a concrete jungle in Manhattan Island,
Maybe no.
Yeah.
maybe you can hear that because the voice will be bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, but there's so many sirens and cars and people, and it might be a bit tricky to hear those.
And at full speed, tigers can reach up to
30?
No. I I think that's like a cheetah speed.
That's like a wheelchair.
Really?
No,
30 kilometers
30 kilometers an hour.
an hour.
That's
It's
fast.
fast, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's maybe.
If you think about the kind of
What did
animals
didn't
they
Usain
chase
Bolt top
after.
speed like 30 kilometers an hour?
Hmm.
So.
I'm gonna say
It's
30.
65 km
What?
per hour.
But
No
a
way.
cheetah's like double that, I think. A cheetah's the fastest animal in the world, if I'm not mistaken. I think a cheetah gets up to like 100.
That's why
It's
sometimes.
possible, but I mean, to be going at 60 kilometers an hour and weighing like 300 kgs, that's
I know.
pretty insane.
Yeah.
That's just why you want to stay away from them. And these fierce felines have walked the earth for a long time. Fossils remains of tigers found in parts of China are believed to be 2 million years old.
Wow.
I mean, tigers are related to those ancient. What are the ancient versions of tigers called?
I think I know the
Saber-tooth
Chinese,
tigers,
but I do not know.
Like a saber-tooth
Yes.
tiger, yeah. Because I think those are even from like almost dinosaur age times, I think. So
Saber-tooth?
Yeah, I think they've been around for thousands of years, no?
Kind of explains how come that there are so many stories in ancient Chinese classics related to tigers.
Been around for a long time.
And last trivia, and these subspecies there are 5 subspecies of tiger, including Bengal tiger, South China tiger, Indo-Chinese tiger, Sumatran tiger, and Amur tiger, also known as the Siberian tiger.
That's the white tiger.
All right.
The Siberian tiger, I think, yeah. That's the one that's white and black as opposed to orange.
Because it's always snowy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
That one I actually know. I actually know that there are at least 4 subspecies of tigers here in China. It's quite impressive to see these animals here in this country, and actually established in 2021, the Northeast Tiger and Leopard National Park spans the provinces Jilin, Heilongjiang, covering an area of approximately 14,000 square kilometers. It is a historical natural distribution area of the Siberian tigers and leopards, and the only region with wild resident populations and breeding families of those species in China.
If I'm not mistaken, tigers are more of an Asian thing, and then lions are an African thing. I don't think there are any tigers in the natural habitat in Africa, if I'm not mistaken.
And according to a researcher at the Scientific Monitoring Department of this park, last year alone, they captured over 5,000 images of the Siberian tigers and more than 8,000 images of leopards. Additionally, the cameras set around in the park recorded over 1 million instances of major food-fed animals, such as wild boars and deer, different types of deer. So yeah, we get to see that with the measures and all the protection policies happen here in the country. We see the increasing of numbers of these beautiful animals here in China and hopefully around the world as well. So good news for Tiger Day.
And another indicator for the changes in our awareness and understanding about tigers is while in the past and in literary works we often see experts training these tigers to be taming them to be deadly forces, harnessing their ferocity and their teeth and claws for the purpose of waging war. Now, I think a lot of the institutions, their goal is to try and make them wild again, even for tigers that are raised and nurtured on, in enclosed areas. A lot of them start by feeding them live chicken and rabbits, and to let them learn to hunt, and then they increase the difficulty and challenge by releasing bigger animals like wild and hawks
And basketball players and, volleyball players.
No,
the bigger the animals, the taller they get, No.
2 tigers. There you go. Some fun thing about animal welfare in summertime and on this particular day, Global Tiger Day. You're listening to Roundtable. Up next, Roundtable's Motivational Monday. Welcome back. Brandon, what do you have for us this week?
I have a quote from Elon Musk, who's undoubtedly the most famous South African in the world at the moment, and probably the most successful South African ever, although he doesn't really identify as South African. I claim him as South African because he was in South Africa until the age of 18, but I think he was unfortunately heavily bullied at school, which I think also impacted his future success, because I think a lot of that made him a stronger person, more determined to achieve his dreams.
Not like we want bullying to make
No, of course not, but I think it was, in some of his interviews, he's definitely mentioned that it impacted his desire for success. Not saying that that's the best way to achieve success, but anyway. So he said, when something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are not in your favor. And I think that he is someone that has been able to achieve remarkable feats in the face of incredible adversity. And he's been able to achieve a lot of things that people thought were seemingly impossible. And I think it's very important for human beings to hopefully have the opportunity to find something that they are incredibly dedicated to or incredibly passionate about. And I think when you have the blessing to see that, you are able to make that happen or do everything in your power to try and make that happen, no matter what odds you face. And I think Elon Musk is a great example of triumph through adversity.
I think as little kids, we've always been taught about these lofty virtues and great things that people did in the past, and it was much easier for kids to absorb these inculcations, to try and to want to be the heroes that the world wanted them to be. But then growing up, there are challenges and hardships and unexpected things happening to our lives, and I think that makes it all the more valuable that someone can stick to his goal that he or she had at the very beginning as a young child.
Well, instead of a quote, today I actually provided a piece of news story, or a lovely story, that has been motivating me at least for the past weekend, because actually on July the 27th, Beijing Central Axis, a building ensemble exhibiting the ideal order of the Chinese capital, has been inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List, becoming China's 59th World Heritage Site. It's been announced at the 46th session of the World Heritage Committee in New Delhi, India.
And China now has the most global heritage sites in the world, if I'm not mistaken. I think with that addition, now China has the most heritage sites globally, which is also an amazing achievement.
Yes,
naturally so. We are the most populous country. We have the longest continuous history as a civilization.
Yes, and you say that and you feel like it must be something natural. It happens, and it's supposed to be what it is, but
it's not to be taken for granted.
It's not to be taken for granted, and it's not that easy. Actually, the formal application for World Heritage status began in 2012 and lasted 12 years. Along the way, there has been initial phases, comprehensive acceleration phases, and crucial sprint phases. Well, these are described by the team that has been doing this task and has been striving for this goal for this 12 years. And along the way, they have been also protecting different sites on this route, on this axis. We see that rooted in the traditional Chinese cultural paradigm of ideal capital planning, the axis features a collection of building complexes and these amazing landmarks spanning 7.8 kilometers north-south through the heart of Beijing. It includes 15 components, from the bell and drum towers to the, for example, Jingshan Park, the Tiananmen Square.
That's like that long road going through the center. I've traveled on that road. I mean, I don't know what the specific sites are, but there's that long road that goes through the middle of the city that passes Tiananmen Square and the Forbidden City, and those are two very iconic Beijing landmarks, and I think that's part of the axis, right?
Yes, and a lot of the landmarks are separated alongside this axis, making sure the planning of the capital is both, in a way, symmetric and also beautiful and majestic. And one interesting thing about this is that it's not only something traditional, it's not only
热点。地球家园，让和平的鲜火代代。
Wars, and then come the People's Republic of China in the 1949, and there was this new thinking as to whether we should keep all of them or we should save them. So a lot of thoughts, a lot of different schools of thinking goes into the maintaining and building of the central axis. I mean, now I believe the bird's nest, which hosted the 2008 Summer Games in Beijing, was part of the central axis. So it's interesting.
As it should be, because I think that was one of the most iconic Olympic Games ever. That's an event that's been around for centuries. Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is to register and understand the kind of thinking, the different kinds of thinking that's gone into, and inspire all these shifting ideas, the central axis is being recognized by the world.
Great achievement. Yeah.
That's all the time we have today. For listeners.
Are you interested in learning Chinese? I always tell my students that listening is the key to mastering the language. Check out Speaking Chinese, where you can start learning the language quickly and enjoyably. For a rookie, is a sophisticated Chinese learner. 我来北京5年了，我是本地人. There is definitely something that will interest you. Check out Takeaway Chinese. Wow, that's
to better serve and support ex-service personnel. The chair of the Central Military Commission made the remarks ahead of the country's Army Day, which falls on Thursday. He called for further reforms to better serve the veterans and protect their rights and interests. The president also said the veterans should enjoy respect from society. Army Day this year marks the 97th founding anniversary of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. Chinese President Xi Jinping has met Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in Beijing. He says the so-called spirit of peace and cooperation, openness and inclusiveness, mutual learning and mutual benefit, the shared treasure of the two countries. President Xi tries to uphold and promote the so-called spirit and push their relations to go steady and far. Earlier, the Chinese leader also met his Timor-Leste counterpart Jose Ramaphosa. So Young has more regarding President Xi.
Presidency said China's ways to Timor-Leste to lead the long-term stable development of bilateral ties towards three higher goals, and this includes firmly supporting each other and safeguarding the sovereignty and the security interests of both sides, as well as promoting cooperation in four key areas. This includes industrial revitalization, infrastructure, food security, and the improvement of people's livelihoods. The Chinese leader also called on the two sides to consider the signing of a new cooperation platform under the Belt and Road Initiative as an opportunity to further strengthen cooperation and cooperation in disaster prevention, fisheries, and poverty reduction.
The National Observatory of China has issued an orange alert for rainstorms across many parts of the country, the second highest level of the country's warning system. Heavy rains expected across many regions, including Beijing, neighboring Hebei and Tianjin, and several provinces in the south. The observatory advised utilities to prepare emergency response measures and remain on high alert for natural disasters like floods and mudslides. Stations activated at level 4 emergency response for flooding, the lowest level. The local meteorological observatory has issued a blue alert for heavy rains, also the lowest level of the warning system. Local authorities say they've sealed one of the 3 dike breaches in the Zhuanshui River in central China. The breach occurred in a section of the river in Huashi, town in Hunan province, on Sunday. Authorities say several villagers will be able to return home after disinfection is completed. The other breaches occurred in Isuhe and Heko. Data shows air and water quality in China saw steady improvement in the first half of the year. The average density of pollutant PM2.5 in over 330 Chinese cities was 33 micrograms per kilometer in the first 6 months, down 2.9%. The proportion of days with poor air quality in those cities over the period was nearly 83%. Nearly 89% of monitored surface water showed fairly good quality. The Venezuelan Electoral Council says incumbent President Maduro has won a third fiscal term in the general election. The party secured 51.2% of the vote after counting 80% of the ballot. Meantime, 44.2% of the votes gone to opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez Garcia. Stephen Gibbs has more from Caracas.
Whatever the result of this election, he was going to be president until January. That's when the new mandate begins. It's a bit of a shock on one side. Yes, it thought it was ahead and it thinks it has the evidence to prove it. But the National Electoral Council allowed that Nicolas Maduro, who's been president for the last 11 years, has been re-elected. We were sort of considering various scenarios that might happen in this election, and this was one of them, where the result is announced but the opposition disputes it. What does that mean? It probably means that for the next 12 weeks, that dispute is going to be totally dominated right here and involve the region.
Health authorities in Gaza say at least 30 Palestinians are dead after an Israeli strike on a school that houses displaced people in central Gaza. 15 children and 8 women are among the dead, and more than 100 people are wounded. The strike comes soon after the Israeli military issued fresh evacuation orders further south in the city of Han Yunis. In sports, Chinese shooter Sun Lihao claimed the title in the men's 10-meter air rifle event at the Paris Olympics. This is the second gold medal of the games for both Lian Junjie and Yang Hao both the men's synchronized 10-meter platform title. This is their first Olympic Games. And that's the news. I'm Tim Dodd.
Welcome to The Bridge. Fun conversations on culture, life, and everything in between.
Find us where you get your podcast. If you like the show, then consider hitting the like button and giving us 5 stars. Comments, anything you would like to share, email us at welovethebridge@gmail.com. We love the bridge. Many U.S. households carry medical debt, with about 79 million Americans facing health-related financial burdens. New laws are set to tame this monster. Is getting sick sickening the U.S. economy and individuals' potential to participate in growing personally? Is medical debt a thing in China? You guys have some medical debt issues, right? It's not perfect over here either, is it?
It's definitely not perfect, as nothing really is perfect, but I really don't think I've heard stories of people who are caught or whose life is kind of put on pause because of medical debt. I mean, there are people who didn't want to spend that much money if they have a very complicated disease, but I really don't think there are that many stories about medical debt. This seems to be not so much of an issue here. I'm sure there are people that are going through issues like this, so.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I don't know anybody personally in China who's told me about their medical debt issues. However, every single person in my family talks about the cost of it and the cost of going to the hospital. My wife here in Beijing, I don't even ask her how much it costs. I don't think it matters.
கட்டியமைக்க துவங்கப்பட்ட
поеду на экскурсию в город Ханчжоу. Я так рад этой поездке.
Слава, как я тебе по-хорошему завидую. Ведь Ханчжоу считается одним из самых красивых городов Китая.
Я слышал, что в Китае говорят, на небесах есть рай, а на земле города Суйчжоу и Ханчжоу. Малин, знаешь, в Ханчжоу мне больше всего хочется побывать на озере Сиху.